Welcome to the Community Workbench. I'm Matt Norn, your host, and today I have Ben Wakely with me. Ben, say hi.
Pleasure to be here.
Anything else? What about you, buddy?
What do you want to know? No, I'm just kidding.
Where are you from? Give me a little bit of background on you.
Born and raised in the quiet corner here. I grew up in Hampton, and I've lived in Brooklyn for about 9 years now. Involved in Brooklyn Little League, Nikon soccer. I coach youth basketball, and I referee high school and college basketball too. So,
Gotcha.
Involved in a bunch of different things around
Big
the
time
community.
Big time community leader. Also, we have Mike Snyder here. Mike, say hi. Tell us a little bit about you.
Thanks, Matthew. I'm the opposite of Ben. I'm not from New England and not from Northeast Connecticut. I've lived here since 2017, a little over 6 years. The Coast Guard's kept our family kind of on the move. I've spent some time in Florida and Alaska, but most of my career I've been here in New England. And since we came to Brooklyn, I've become pretty heavily involved with the Little League. That takes up a lot of my time in the community. And for various reasons, which we're going to talk about tonight, I've become involved in a lot of the politics here as well. So.
Yep. So originally, I had thought of the Community Workbench as more of a plateau for interviewing local business owners, promoting buying local, hiring local. I've always been fascinated with small business and what makes a small business owner tick, and what their daily life is like. To me, it's just riveting to hear, like, from an electrician, from a plumber, and from their day to day, and everybody gets into their own business for their own reasons, and all of that just encapsulates me. So, but tonight we are going to be talking about a certain small business that is the Icebox in Suto. And they have fallen victim to a kind of frivolous lawsuit. I guess time will tell us how frivolous. And the East Brooklyn Fire Department is suing them. And it's just a very odd situation for a fire department to be suing a neighboring local business. Technically, they're suing the other two businesses on the same right-of-way. And it's.
I think we should point out that they were suing them. They've already dropped it because they realized that it was a loser.
Right. So
It only took them 3 years to figure that out.
Yeah.
Well, in any lawsuit, when someone's attacking you, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm thinking almost 100% of the time you put a countersuit on that same person so that whoever loses pays the bill. Obviously, they haven't been to a court date, so we don't really know who's the loser, and they are at their wits' end as far as finances. We've been doing as much as we can as a community to keep them alive. We had a protest, very civil, right out on Route 6, and that seemed to surge patronage and everything else, so they got to stay out another week, staying strong. And there's hope in that, but they are still trying to decide which bills to pay every night when it comes to mortgage, keeping the lights on, and then paying the lawyers, which is kind of a necessity if they're ever going to get anything out of this to make them whole, which is the hope. Seems like the overwhelming majority of everybody wants them to continue on with this iconic business that's been around since the 70s, I think.
Yeah.
So
one of the things at the rally, when the news camera people were there was talk about, like, why are we all here? Like, why are we doing this for these people in this business and everything? And the biggest thing for me is that I feel like this could happen to anybody,
Right.
and Jen and Matt are just such great people, and the businesses does so much for the community that we have to step up as members of the community to make sure that we're helping them out in their time of need. So
Yeah, it's actually how Mike and I met. He coached my son's spring little league, and the sponsors were the Icebox, and we had a lot of ice cream that season.
Yes, we did. Best sponsor ever.
Yeah, they and they were at every game, and still going through all of this. It is just amazing the amount of time and commitment they put towards these extracurriculars and keeping their kids in somewhat of a normal lifestyle. A lot of admiration to that.
Yeah, I think it's the thing that impresses me so much about Matt and Jen and their family is, I mean, this has been going on since 2019. The lawsuit wasn't 2019, but like the troubles with the fire department in the town have been going on for 4 years now, and the vast majority of people in town had no idea.
Right.
They didn't want to make a big thing out of it that what has obviously turned out to be a pretty divisive issue.
Yeah.
And they kept it to themselves, and I think it was pretty admirable that they did that for as long as they could.
Yeah.
Like years.
Yeah.
And most people didn't know about it.
Most lawyers will advise you not to talk about it publicly.
But like even with their friends,
yeah,
a lot of their friends didn't even know. So.
Yeah. And I will say, one thing that seemed to shock a lot of people a few months ago was that it was still going on. And I think one of the tributes to that is the previous first selectman actually made a video, and at the end of the video, he tried explaining what was going on, and then at the end of the video, he says, "I think this is pretty much resolved," which was far from the truth or far from reality. Whether he thought it was the truth at that point or not, well, we don't know. But the big thing here, as Ben brought up, is that right now it's looking like the fire department can crush a small business, or the town and the fire department can crush a small business. And if that happens, if the Icebox goes out of business over this, I just really I'm really dreading that our town won't recuperate, that we're hostile to small business.
Yeah, why would you want to bring a business here?
Yeah. As a realtor, I get young families all the time. I said this at the meeting the other night, the Board of Selectmen's meeting. I said, I get requests all the time for a family to start their life in 3 towns: Brooklyn, Pomfret, Woodstock, because of the school systems mainly and the low amount of crime. I am really dreading the day that they say, I just Pomfret or Woodstock, or one of the other towns that we're literally competing with. I know the first selectman, I'm not sure who got elected. I would assume it's him, but Cunningham down in Plainfield has a whole welcome package for small businesses, and he jumps at the chance to give that welcome package out and his number and be there for them and support, which in my opinion, that's how a town should act. Town staff, town, everybody, the planning and zoning, everybody right through. And it worries me that that all of this may have happened through incompetence. Maybe a little bit of ego on one side or the other as well to surge it on, but honestly, there's just been so many wrongs in as far as paperwork. Their permit got revoked when they were halfway through building suto or rebuilding or remodeling suto. There's been surveying done. There's been a lot of things going on that just a lot of things don't add up. Things are very confusing, especially for an outsider such as myself to be watching this and like, how could it go on again? How could it keep going on?
Yeah, I think that's been one of the problems with this particular situation is it is so confusing. There's so many entities involved, so much history over the 2, 3, 4 years that all the issues have been happening. Like like I'm fairly knowledgeable about the situation, and I still don't even probably know half of it.
Yeah.
Right. I know I've spent hours with Matt and Jen just trying to take it all in, and they're well versed in it.
Yeah. And if you spend 5 minutes on the residence page on Facebook, you'll learn 9,000 incorrect things. So
Right.
Yeah, it would be a full-time job to just correct people on the residence page.
yeah.
I think that's a social media thing that it just it's just even texting people. You know, you lose tonality, you lose facial recognition, all kinds of stuff when you're not talking to someone in person. When you're on the phone with somebody, which a lot of people don't like doing anymore, you lose that tonality, and now
Body language,
yeah. Tone, everything, and then just texting, you lose a lot of communication in texting, and of course, when there's a back and forth in the comments of any page, some people misconstrue, or people are just outright nasty because they're not in front of you.
Right.
They're not, they say things on there, or they write things on there that most wouldn't do if it was person to person.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You lose that humanality to it when you're just texting on social media. So that's one thing that I don't know if we'll ever fix.
No. Yeah, I think that's only going to get worse.
So you guys want to kind of bring us up to speed on where we're at, like right now? You guys were both at the selectmen's meeting on Monday or Tuesday last week.
Yeah, so last week it was a busy week, obviously, because like Matt mentioned, that we had the protest on Monday, and then Wednesday was the Board of Fire Commissioners meeting, and there was a pretty good showing for. I think there was maybe.
I think it was 60 between in person and
something like that, and then the Board of Selectmen meeting on Thursday, and there was like over 70 people either in the room or on Zoom.
Yeah, that was a good showing. I thought we had made quite a bit of progress in the idea that we talked with the Board of Selectmen. Usually, public comment, they don't have to have a back and forth.
Yeah, and they rarely do answer any questions.
Yeah, and they did. Some of the questions or comments, they just moved on, and to some degree, I get that. They brought up how the town gets sued quite often, and they have an insurance company that deals with that, and the insurance company's lawyer, and there's a town lawyer as well that's involved. And a lot of times when it's going on, they don't get updates. It just goes on, and the lawyers and the insurance handle it. And that, I almost like car insurance. You get into an accident, if you file a claim, you get it fixed, and then the insurance is kind of dealing with the other insurance or the other person. And
right, yeah, it's kind of out of your hands at that point. That's why you have insurance.
Yeah, and that is kind of how it is. And also, their lawyers are telling them don't talk about it because it's under litigation. So I get that, but they did bring up the fact when they were pressed that we could, as a town, pull the claim, the insurance claim, and then maybe make them whole by the town paying out from coffers or whatever, but that would all have to obviously be voted on. So we were trying to get them to do maybe a town meeting just to vote on the whole thing.
Which you have to petition to do that.
Or the first selectman can just say, we're
right,
having a town meeting at this time.
Yeah, I think there's a certain amount of notice he has to give. There's
7 days, I think I read.
Additional requirements, but he would have that in his power to do as well.
Right. Yeah, that was one thing that we asked them, and so then Jen and Matt talked with their lawyer, and the lawyer wasn't sure that was their best option moving forward at either. So again, it gets more complicated. And
there's a lot of lawyers involved.
So the Board of Selectmen went into their executive session after we all left, and that's when the public's not invited. And I guess they did come to an agreement that they were going to be talking to the insurance and the attorneys and what they could do to speed the process up. Matt had gotten up early in public comments and said that the insurance company involved for the town has not done anything since, I think he said 2021. It was
2 years ago.
Yeah, it was almost exactly 2 years to the date that they hadn't done anything as far as court or whatnot. So insurance companies, I'm sure deal with hundreds of claims a week. I don't know, maybe a month, whatever it is, whatever volume it is.
Right.
So, and you, unfortunately, just another number to them until there's some context. And hopefully our Board of Selectmen convey that this is super urgent. There was definitely some things in evidence that would say that it was either neglect or incompetence or even nefarious,
Or all of the above.
or all the above goings on in the town, with especially revoking the permit. And the Board of Selectmen I've talked to on the phone a few times, and he's very good about answering the phone or calling you back, and he talks pretty openly about the situation in general terms. He does not get very specific because, again, they've been advised not to. And it does appear to be a really complicated issue. I kind of pressured him where, Brooklyn's in 2 lawsuits with small businesses. The other one is Brooklyn Sand and Gravel, and they have the money to follow through, so to speak. And Brooklyn was definitely in the wrong, and we're going to be sued for 2 or 3 million. It'll probably come from that insurance, so it may not affect our tax base as much.
Well, but every time you lose a lawsuit and that insurance has to pay out, your premium goes up on it. So it does in the long run, maybe not to the fold of $2 to $3 million, but it does hurt you in the long run.
I was told, now this is anecdotal, I was told that type of insurance isn't necessarily like your car insurance where they just immediately raise your premiums. But
But how many lawsuits are
Right.
Are they
is the
willing to-
insurance
yeah.
company gonna be willing to?
the other thing, I don't know who it was, but they did say that there was a issue with certain personnel and dealing with that one. And I asked them 2 years ago when you got elected, why didn't you kind of clean house? If people are bringing on large losses like this, if I worked at a business, if I
Right.
worked for you, Ben, and I cost you $2 million, would I be on your
No.
payroll? No. And that's it's kind of, I know people make mistakes, but there's only so much
Right.
an entity can do if you're liability in that respect, which is just my humble opinion. But we've all seen it before where somebody gets fired because they make a mistake. And
It's kind of life.
yeah.
So what other? I mean, your comment kind of made the news in the on the Winnie chat.
So one thing I definitely am worried about as a taxpayer, as a realtor, and just overall kind of love Brooklyn, in its small town that it is. My kids go to school here and whatnot. My wife grew up here, went to school here, that whole thing. I worry about our reputation as being hostile to small business or to businesses in general. And if it comes out that the fire department or fire district and the town basically through one way or another crushes a small business and they go out of business, and it's the Icebox and Suto are no more, I mean, what's that going to say to every surrounding town, surrounding anybody coming into this quiet corner, anyone that wants to set up shop and do more business in Brooklyn? I really think that'll be something that we will pay for dearly for years and years to come. As far as the stigma that it'll give Brooklyn,
Yeah.
and I worry about it.
Yeah, I think that's a very legitimate concern. This is certainly anecdotal, but I can speak from my own experience. I'm retiring from the Coast Guard in a couple years, so I'm trying to figure out what I wanted, like what's next in my life, right?
Right.
And I've thought a lot about starting a small business, and knowing what I know about how this town handles small businesses and how they handle their business in general, there's no way that I would risk my livelihood on opening a small business here when there's better options nearby.
Right.
So I think your concerns are valid, but we're past the point of being able to fix it. So
As
like
far
I
as
said,
reputation,
that's my personal opinion on it. I think
Well,
anybody who knew like what has happened to the Nemeths, who had a very successful small business with a lot of history in this town, and literally did nothing wrong. That's the craziest thing about this is they did nothing wrong.
right. There's no fines, no arrests,
Nothing.
no impediments, nothing. There's been, and a lot of people speculate that it's over parking or the right of way or the fire lane. There was no cars ticketed. There was no cars towed. There was,
As far as I know, there was no emergencies that weren't
Right.
able to respond to.
right. They weren't tardy to any calls. I don't, there was none of that because, and there's also never been any accidents right on that right of way where there was people commenting, oh, we don't want to go to the ice box because our kids might get hit by a fire truck or something. That is also crazy. Matt and Jen have actually put up a fence, made a one-way, and made it so you come out of their parking lot at a 90-degree angle, which is very smart, so that you can look both ways, and exit without a problem. And,
Yeah.
It is crazy that we have a fire department on a back road on a right-of-way.
With no traffic lights.
With no traffic lights. I really think, the town or somebody messed up with putting a fire department back there and not giving them their own access. Most fire departments in towns, especially small towns, are on Main Street, right there with their own light.
You may know about this, Matthew, or you may know, Ben. Wasn't there a plan years ago for them to make a road coming from the fire department out onto like where Allen Hill and Route 6, that intersection, so there's a light there?
Yeah, so there was a state DMV checkpoint or inspection. They did emissions back there before the fire department was in, and then the state at some point sold it to our town. As far as I know, there was no safety study done. There was no traffic study done. There was all the stuff you do when you're making a large investment like that. Some of the administration said that it was a deal, so we just did it and we got it done. But one of the stipulations I thought to put the fire department in there was they were supposed to acquire more land to so that they could get out to a main road with a light. I think that would be right on the corner of South Street. And that's obviously never happened. And I guess I don't know why it didn't happen, and the lot right next door is for sale, so it's kind of wild that has that access to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. If we could just get back to like the reputation of the town. I mean, I don't think it's like gone forever. I mean, if things stay like how they are and it keeps going like that, then yeah. But I mean, I think if the town steps up and does the right thing and kind of makes this whole for them and shows that
whole keeps them going as a thriving business that they should be.
Right.
I think that would go a long way
Mm-hmm.
in the reputation.
and
Forever's a long time. But yeah, you're right. The town can absolutely, they can make this right.
yeah,
Right.
I mean, it's granted there's, like we said earlier, there's a lot of lawyers involved and there's an insurance company involved. So it's complicated, but that, when you're a leader and you're elected to a leadership position like that, it's kind of your job to like uncomplicate the complicated. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say, if they go out of business, the next official elected is going to have their work cut out for them in a big way. That's just going to be a scar for a very long time for a lot of people. Did I say this already? As a realtor, I've had a lot of people, come in to my office, ask me, we'd like a house in a town with a good school system, and they said, well, a lot of them just want to look in Brooklyn, Pomfret, Woodstock, and that happens because the school systems are so good in those three towns. Just want to look in Brooklyn, Pomfret, Woodstock. That happened. Technical difficulty.
Sorry,
That's
I was trying to read the comments.
Yeah, and I just dread the day that my clients say, we just want to look in Pomfret or Woodstock or one of the other competing towns that just have, full welcome mats and tons of support for small business. Putnam is thriving with their small business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've always loved and looked at Mystic as that ideal small town with small businesses. There's not a lot of chains. There's there's not a lot of corporate stuff there. It seems. I could be wrong. But yeah, I just feel like that type of image is slipping out of Brooklyn's hands quickly.
Yeah. I mean, how many empty storefronts do we have?
Quite a few, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a lot.
And and now we are getting an Aces. I think Aces Hardware,
Oh yeah, I heard that.
and so that'll be our second hardware store. I don't know.
It still doesn't. I mean, it's a good start, but it still doesn't even come close to filling that plaza.
Yeah, when I think of like corporations coming into a town, for some towns or cities, it's a good thing. But when you go to let's say you go to Target, where there's other surrounding businesses, right? You pretty much know what you're getting when you go to Target. So a lot of people just, I think,
I've heard Target tells you what you're getting when you get there.
anywhere that's a corporate box store, it's what's there. So you go there, you get it, and then you go home usually. Where I feel like if you have a setup on Main Street, like Killingly, Putnam, you go to one small business there, you're exploring, and then you're usually apt to go to another small business, and then maybe a restaurant, and I think that's more the culture that small businesses bring,
Right.
versus the box stores. It's like it's there, and then they have shareholders to keep happy, so they're trying to minimize their expenses to the most that they can, so they get the most profit, and that kind of puts pennies in the local economics, where a small business, puts $100 bills in, because usually the person lives in the community. They sponsor little leagues, they sponsor basketball teams, they give to local charities a lot, especially the NEMIS, that's for sure.
Yeah. They employ people in the community.
They employ people. The NEMIS have 50 during the summer, is what he said, around 50 employees. That's a lot for this local economy.
Right. You need places like that for young kids to learn what it means to be an employee of a place.
Right.
It's not screwing off all summer. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's a job, and you learn and you do what
Right.
is expected of you.
You
So,
learn how to become a contributing member of society.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And that's you can't put a price on that,
Right.
really.
I mean, just like of all of our individual sponsors for Brooklyn Little League, I would say 90% of them, 95% of them are small businesses.
Yeah. We had, I think, 25 sponsors last year, and I can only think of one or two that aren't small businesses.
Right.
of Some
I mean,
sort.
you can even count Hartford Yard Goats as a small business.
Yeah.
You know?
I've heard a couple of different definitions of small business. You're free to look this up, but someone told me anything under 1,500 employees is a small business.
Yeah.
That's wild to me.
Yeah.
That scale. I also have heard people say under 500 employees is a small business, depending on the way they file their taxes.
Yeah.
Or something.
I mean, anything that I think that's like local, like they don't have franchises. There's not like Hartford Yard Goats all over the country. I mean, there are other minor league
Yeah.
baseball things, but
I will say though, when like Baker's Dozen, their owner is just a great guy.
yeah,
And he's got 3 or 4 of them. It's technically a chain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's a small chain. So.
yeah,
So the census, it looks like it's kind of a squishy definition, but the U.S. Census says that any small business that has revenue ranging, from 1 million to 40 million, and by employment from 100 to 1,500 employees. So these are obviously
Big ranges.
big ranges.
Yeah.
But, I think it's more about the culture that each town brings with their small business.
right.
Yeah.
I know.
Absolutely.
I volunteer a lot for Fire and Ice in Putnam, where we're there in the morning helping set up the tables for the ice cubes to go on and stuff like that. And I was talking to the mayor and a few of the others that are in the business association, Putnam Business Association, and all of the bars there. So if you don't know, Fire and Ice brings about 50,000 people through Putnam on a very cold February day usually, and that's incredible. But if you're a bar owner and you run out of something, like let's say you run out of whiskey, the other bar owners give it to you at cost. They all have that where they exchange stuff like that. And they had one business that had got a younger, restaurant that had gotten in there, and he was really not trusting that situation. Like, really, if they run out of Fireball, they can just come to me and get Fireball, and it's part of the competition. And then he realized what kind of a crowd there was there, and what it's a panic when, especially if your specials revolve around a certain
Right.
drink, and now, it's just everybody does really well on that day, and those events they're really good for that local economy. And Matt Nemeth was telling me him and Jen have done a ton of research all the way back to the 80s in our town files, or all the archives. And he says we basically don't like mixed use, which I think is wild, to let a building have businesses on the first floor and apartments on the other floors
Right.
above. They don't like stuff like that. And he just said, if you let it happen, we could have our own Main Street, like Putnam, Mystic, Killingly. We could have these great events where all the small businesses just thrive. And he said that they've turned down a lot of projects.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is knowledge. When I started my own business, I really didn't know what to do. I was like, I'm a carpenter for hire, and that was, years ago. It turns out you have to register with the state, and there's a lot of phone numbers to call. There's places to go. I took, I think, 3 days off to do everything, get all your paperwork in order. You got to get insurance and all that stuff. And then after that, you're on your own, basically. And that's really what it felt like. As a carpenter, I get it. I didn't have like a retail store,
Right.
where the town is really involved with that situation. So it's daunting to a lot of people. But there's nothing saying we can't have a welcome package for small business owners, people that want to be a small business and have the stack of papers, of all the paperwork that's got to happen. have a first selectman, or a first selectman appoint somebody on his staff to, walk people through it if they need it. A phone number,
Yeah.
send them a call and be like, okay, I'm stuck on page 5A. Is my dog security social security number enough? So, yeah, I just think that there's definitely other towns around us that have welcome packages for small businesses, and right now it just seems like Brooklyn just gives you hurdles. It says if you don't clear them, we're just shut you down.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think at this point, are there things we can do as a community to bring in small businesses? Yeah, of course. I think all those are all great ideas. Why there's not somebody working for the town who that's their sole job is to, solicit, find, bring in small businesses.
Yeah.
That's a question for another day, probably.
yeah,
The most important thing I think we can all agree they can do to support small businesses is to figure out the icebox pseudo situation, because it's a giant black eye that's, like you guys have said, it's gonna, and you guys have lived here longer than me, it's gonna leave a lasting scar on this town. I can't imagine a young, and there's other small businesses being impacted recently as well. I don't know if we can talk about that here, but there's another small business closed last week. So yeah, there's major issues here, and until they fix the icebox pseudo situation, nothing else really matters.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's just I don't know. It's a confusing and messed up thing. We are on Facebook Live, right? We got the button this time.
There's actually people watching us too.
There is. All right.
There's 17 people viewing right now.
Oh, good.
There were some comments.
Okay. Is there any questions or anything?
Lots from Chris Maxim. Thanks, Chris, for watching.
Chris Maxim. Great guy. He also had a kid on Mike's team, and we got real friendly.
We had a lot of
Matt
fun,
and
yeah.
Jen in the bleachers, watching Mike coach our undefeated team.
Kathy's quoting state statute, so I'm not going to read that one because it looks really long. I think a lot of people are just in agreement that this situation is not tenable for small businesses in the long run. So, and bringing in small businesses and keeping them here. So,
Yeah. I think the biggest thing for a lot of people I know, everybody feels like frustrated by it. Like, what can we do? But we've done a lot of things, and it's still going on,
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing that you can kind of do is be that squeaky wheel with the town, with everything,
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I call the first selectman, here and there when I have questions about it, and he's willing to answer, most questions. He's definitely willing to talk to. I do hope and wonder what this week will bring, where they said that they were going to talk to the attorneys, the town attorney and the insurance attorney. I guess, it sucks because every minute the town hemorrhages money over this, and the Nemeths are counting the minutes until their life savings, their passion, everything
potentially their home
goes away.
Everything's on the line for them right now.
Yeah, and I mean, they sold their second car like 2 years ago. Can you guys imagine running your life and your kids with one car?
Yeah,
that's what they've been doing for
Yeah.
a long time now.
Unfortunately, I think the thing that kind of drew me into this, obviously beyond finding out what wonderful people Matt and Jen are, is I have a really tough time seeing, essentially, not that the town's a corporation, but it's an entity with essentially an unlimited budget and deep pockets, that's bullying an entity that doesn't have unlimited
Right.
an unlimited budget and deep pockets. And it's very beyond all the kind of the messiness of this situation and how long it's dragged out and how confusing it is with, insurance companies and lawyers involved. It's very evident that the strategy of the insurance company, the town, and the, East Brooklyn Fire Department, the strategy from the beginning has been to drag this out as long as possible,
Right.
to essentially bleed the Nemeths dry.
Yeah.
And I think that's what kind of sucked me into this, is because that's the injustice of that. That's not what this country is about.
Yeah.
Is essentially an entity with an unlimited budget bullying,
Right.
Somebody who doesn't have those deep pockets. So
Right. I've talked to Matt about this, and one of my first questions was, what does the fire department want out of this? What are they asking for? They want to move property lines? Do they want this, that? He's like, they won't answer.
yeah, I've actually read through and I'm not a lawyer. I've read through the lawsuits, and it says they want compensation for damages. But it's like, what are the damages?
Yeah.
Like what is the damage? And I'm assuming that's why they dropped the lawsuit, is because
They don't have an answer.
there are no damages.
I know they also went through 4 lawyers pretty quickly, basically the lawyers saying that there wasn't any merit to their case or their lawsuit, which that's wild,
Yeah.
to go through 4 of them to say the same thing. And I'm pretty sure every property bordering the icebox and the fire department has an A2 survey. The lines are pretty clear, the deeds are very clear, and that, just from looking through some of them, plus I talked to somebody else that had a very big interest in the case at one time, and he said this should have been mediated by the first selectman at the time. There's no reason they should be fighting over this.
Right.
And that's what I keep hearing from the town, is we didn't start this. It was the fire department. They brought the lawsuit. But we've all heard the saying, the buck stops here, right? Like exactly like you said, Matt. The town should have demonstrated, and I know it's not our current first selectman. He wasn't there when this started, but ultimately the town is 100% liable for this situation that we're in right now.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
Yeah, the leadership skills, I feel like, have been, just been subpar.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to say it.
Well-
I want to be nice, and I don't want to name drop, and I don't want to point fingers. You know what I mean? If I could take the blame and just say, let's make it right,
Yeah.
I would. Because I just don't understand.
And to be fair, I think the current administration has kind of done that. I mean, he came to the rally. The first selectman came to the rally,
It's true.
and he's a small business owner himself, you know.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
I think he's a little more understanding and a little more willing to try to get it going in the right direction. I think it's like it's anything in life. You get busy with other things, and stuff gets put on the back burner until it's a necessary priority. And I think it's kind of gotten to that point.
Yeah.
And you're like you said, insurance companies and lawyers want to drag it out. So if the lawyer is saying, well, we got to wait for this, and the insurance company is saying, well, we got to wait for this, then the first selectman, who's a small business owner in town, is going, well, we'll just wait for what they're telling us to do. So
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, because I really feel like, we could push to get them all in the same room.
Yeah.
Get them all talking, and, what does everybody want? You know what I mean? What's a number that we can all live
Yeah.
with? And, I know the insurance company doesn't want to do that.
Right.
As an insurance company, they don't want to pay out. And that's, in their eyes, if they wait, Nemeths could just drop their suit because they don't have any more money to
Right.
keep going. And that's sad and horrible to me.
right.
Meanwhile, there is another small business under a lawsuit with Brooklyn, and they have the means to keep going. They will go to court and get a huge settlement, and it will hurt.
Right.
And that's the other thing is, the town. I would love to see how much money the town and the fire district wasted, because all of their money is donations and taxes, right?
Unfortunately, we'll never see those. Never see those numbers. That's a whole separate issue.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. I think you've been harping on at the meetings, and a lot of gratitude from myself. You stood up and had some very eloquent speeches about the travesty that this is, and the fact that not every penny is accounted for with the town, the fire district, and the fire department, and it just seems like things don't reconcile. And I thought to have any public office or department, every penny had to be accounted for in and out. I know my wife, the accountant, holds me accountable for that stuff in our own family budget and my small business budget. It's just
The thing that kind of blows my mind, and I'm not as savvy on this as other people, but my understanding is there's no audit or anything like that of either fire department, and they both do a lot of fundraising. So you have public funding coming from the taxpayers, mingled with their fundraising dollars, all in one big pot, and you have no idea how much they're raising.
yeah,
And with their multiple, both fire departments do multiple fundraisers, so you have no idea how much money they're getting through these fundraisers, and then they're asking for money every year with their budget requests from the public.
town. Right.
So you have all this money being mingled together, and you don't really have a full accounting of anything that's happening. So
right.
I think that in my eyes, that seems to be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how you would fix or police that necessarily. They do the thing with the boot drive. Most of the time, they have a charity that it's supposed to go to. I would imagine
Well, I mean,
99.9% of all fire companies that raise money are putting it in.
Well, I think
And where they
you
say
can
it's going.
town bylaws. You just edit the town bylaws and say you don't get your money from the town every year until you show an audit of what you are doing with it.
I want to be clear. I'm not accusing anybody of doing anything improper or nefarious. I'm just saying that it's when you aren't accounting. And a little bit of background. I was the treasurer for Little League last year, and we don't have public funding, obviously, but a lot of our money comes from fundraising, and a lot of that is cash,
Okay.
right? Especially in the concession stand. So, it's really important to have proper accountability for all of those funds. So, like I said, I just want to stress, I'm not accusing anybody of doing anything improper, but it's it's a check and balance that you have to have, right?
And I don't think anybody here, I've never heard any hate speech or anything towards first responders, firefighters. That's not what this is about. There's been a lot of things said on Facebook and whatnot, and I don't read a lot at all on Facebook. I like books.
Yeah, it's not a good place to get your news.
Yeah, but there's just been a lot, and it sparks rumors and stuff, and Matt and Jen have first responders in their family. Matt was a volunteer fire department out of
For years.
Ledyard for
Yeah,
years.
For years.
Nobody here is really accusing anybody of hate of any sort like that. I want to make that clear that I haven't heard anything, and even when I talk to any of the first selectmen or anybody on that side, everything's been handled with pretty good respect and civility, and Civility.
Civility.
There you go. Yeah, I can make up words. It's my
Yeah.
podcast. It's fine.
Yeah, I agree with you, Matt. There's a couple people who will, try to start divisiveness online, and that's not really behind the scenes. That's not what's happening for the most part, at least from my understanding.
I will say, in my humble opinion about politics, I think our culture as Americans, especially at the town level, I think we need a break from the two-party system.
Oh boy, this is a whole other.
That's a podcast for another time.
I know, I stepped in it, but I just feel like it's so divisive. Everything has a debate. Everything divides, and I feel like a lot of people like us in these small towns don't want to hear it. We don't. I mean, long since gone are the days where somebody or a parent could walk to a mill, work 8 or 9 hours, walk back, and have enough money to pay for their family of 7.
Yeah.
That was the baby boomer generation, basically. And we don't really have that anymore. So now most houses need 2 incomes with a commute on the end of it. COVID corrected some of that.
Yeah.
With the at-home working.
I thought you meant on the income, and I was like, oh
no. But you need 2 incomes, and then I spend a lot of time going to my kids' activities. Kids are in a lot of activities now, and it's really hard to get home at the end of the night and try to turn around and learn civics, learn what your particular representatives are doing, and whether or not that's right.
Yeah.
That's a tough gig.
Yeah.
And I just feel like a lot of people feel that way, and there are bad actors in every industry, politics included.
Yep.
And I just think it's hard to watch the government, but in the end, a culture shift for government that supports the people that it rules over, rather than building walls up and walls, is I think where we need to navigate towards.
So let me ask you guys this. So there's probably some people watching right now, or will watch, a couple of minutes of this at some point this week. Like, what can we do now? We've talked about a lot of stuff, including the fire department, which, in my opinion, and this is what I've been telling people, like the fire department is not what we need to be focusing on right now. It's like resolving this issue between the town,
The insurance.
and the insurance company, and
Xbox.
the NEMIS.
Yeah.
So it kind of, like Ben said earlier, I think people are mobilized now because Matt and Jen have basically said, like, we are closing. Like, beyond, like, and in fact, I don't even think they have hours out this week, because they don't know if they're going to be open past tomorrow, or maybe I think they're closed tomorrow, and they're not sure what's going to happen after that. So if people are watching this, like, what can they do to help resolve the situation and make their voices heard?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of good stuff that has come out. Like, there's scripts that people have written to kind of like help people, make it easier for them. Calling the first selectman, emailing the first selectman, calling our state reps, our state senators, to get them involved. And I think that's kind of what we can do. Just be that thorn in their side. Go to all the meetings that we can, whatever is this week.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like directly related to it. If it's a town meeting, why not get up there in public comment and just keep pestering them about it?
Well, there's that. Also, I don't know. We were writing emails to the first selectman, and then, when I called him, he was like, "Yeah, we got all these emails. We know that they have a lot of support, and but it's really up to the lawyers and the insurance." So I said, "Well, you can at least forward my email to the insurance."
Right.
I don't know if there is a contact for the insurance. Or
I think I've actually seen that. I think one of the supporters figured out who to contact at the insurance company, but I'd have to check on that.
Yeah, and I wonder if writing to them
Yeah.
incessantly and maybe calling them, not so incessantly, but
Well,
giving them a call and letting them know that the this is on the previous administration kind of screwed up,
right.
and the the Nemis need to be made whole for that.
Right.
It's not. I don't know. It's more than just your normal claim of insurance. This is big.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know. I just wish the insurance would see that this is more than just a claim. It's more than just money, dollars and cents that's going to make things right.
Right.
It's the town in general is going to suffer
Mm-hmm.
if the Nemis don't become whole.
Yeah, and I think it's worth pointing out that it's likely. I think likely is the right word. I think it's likely if this does go all the way to trial and there's not a settlement before that, I think it's likely that it's going to cost the insurance company more money
Right.
Right.
in the end.
Right.
So it's actually in their best interest to come to the table with a reasonable offer to settle
Right.
and make this go away. So it's not going to trial and they're having to continue to pay their lawyers and ultimately paying a much larger settlement.
Yeah. And that's been another debate as to what's reasonable.
Yeah.
I at the meeting said $1 million. I know that sounds like a lot. I don't have $1 million. I know that sounds like a lot, but it could be pennies compared to what they would lose at trial. And it's definitely pennies compared to the ongoing business and residents
Yeah.
and tax base we will lose as a town in the future.
I don't think it's unreasonable at all.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're in business for
Yeah.
yourself. It's like the bills just keep going; they add up. It's most small business of that caliber is literally around probably 10 or 12 grand a month
Right.
to keep going in
Yeah.
expenses. So that's the money that they need to make just to do that.
Right.
The Nemis have had, I mean, one month they had a $30,000 lawyer bill. Who can turn around? And
They
pay
had
that?
they had a $60,000 day.
Yeah, yep. I remember that with when they were in court in July, and honestly, that was just shocking that the judge wouldn't let them do it. Duke it out and have their day in court. That was to me awful.
Yeah.
Just disconcerting.
There's irony that it's the justice system.
Yeah,
There's a complete lack of justice sometimes.
yeah. So
Yeah, I think you said something that I lost my train of thought, but I think ultimately the people are mobilized and involved now. I think there's more good information going out to people.
Mhm.
I think they have a better understanding, and it was I was very disheartened leading up to next week to even call myself a resident of Brooklyn after everything that's been happening.
yeah,
We love our friends here, we love the school, but just to see this happening to our friends by the town was really upsetting. But then to see everybody come out to the rally on Monday, see all the people at the meetings on Wednesday and Thursday, made me really proud to be from Brooklyn.
great. Yeah.
Or to live here.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know if
super
I can call
heartwarming.
myself from Brooklyn yet, but I live here.
Yeah,
But,
it was super heartwarming.
Yeah, made me feel very proud to live here, and I think we need to continue that.
Right.
Like you guys were saying, I think we need to show up in mass to the meetings.
Yeah. Stay
And
involved.
really stay involved.
And I mean, if you are gonna go out to eat, I love their food.
Yeah.
Not to take away from pizza because I love pizza, but there are pizza joints everywhere around here. And then when I saw that menu, I was like, something different. And it comes through. It's great food. And great ice cream, good homemade ice cream. My family actually has almost every summer now we do a ice cream bucket list, So ice cream shop bucket list. So we go and try out the different ice creams in different places, especially when we go to Maine. We're on vacation. We try to seek out, cool little shops and stuff like that. We've tried a lot of ice cream, and
Yeah.
my son will argue that he likes soft serve, but the rest of us really like the hard ice cream, and their homemade ice cream is great.
It's really good.
Whenever they come out with maple bacon, that's like can't stop eating.
I've never had anything bad at Suto either. The Taco Tuesday, we've been hitting that up the last couple months. It's great.
I love to take the mac and cheese. That's some family recipe of Matt's, and it's amazing. And I take their chili, and I'll bring it home and put it in one bowl and just
Nice.
have at it. So good. And then their boozy shakes.
I haven't tried that yet, but every time I go in there, it's usually during the week, so I feel bad getting a boozy shake. But
I've had a few. I won't disclose when I had them. But yeah, then I don't know. Maybe it would also help if you are going to go out to eat and you plan on going to Suto or Icebox, and if you're a big party, maybe do a call ahead to help them plan. I don't know if that would work, because right now it's kind of like a mystery as to how much food to buy and
yeah,
where it's going to go if they have to close down. So if they know that they have parties coming, maybe that'll help. Jen and Matt, if you're listening, you can put that in comments if it doesn't help. But yeah, I know nothing about the food industry, and I've been in the back restaurant with Matt, and I was like, if I was here and I could just grab stuff for free, I would be 500-600 pounds. I have no willpower when I'm that close to it.
I don't know a lot about it either, but I know it's really tough.
Yeah,
it's really tough. So it's hard for me to see a business that they were thriving to the point where they were expanding. They built that awesome deck on the back, which is like a great place in the summertime, and then they added Suto. Yeah. So a thriving, not just this, there's a lot of just, regular small businesses, but they were a growing, thriving small business in our community, and to see them go through this has just been really tough.
Yeah. Matt talked to me at length about how their business plan included multiple spots of Icebox 2, 3, and 4. He had an opportunity to be in a marina, I think in Old Saybrook or something like that, where they were going to set up a shop there. And I don't know. It could be a different restaurant now that goes in it, because the opportunity is lost paying lawyer bills, and that's now we're hurting other small business communities that could have this great food and great patronage. But definitely get out there, get involved, voice your opinion at the meetings. Feel free to call and email all the leaders that we have, our elected officials.
I think we should put a plug in for the Building
a Better
Brooklyn Facebook page too.
Okay.
We can link it in the comments.
Oh, there we go. Look at Ben.
Well, if you guys know how to do that
already.
If you guys know how to do that, I will give you my phone.
Yeah, the Building a Better Brooklyn Facebook group, we have, looks like about 200 members right now.
Nice.
And we put a lot of good, Jen really has been kind of a leader in this, putting good information out about upcoming meetings and Zoom links, and all the contact information for the local elected officials, state senators, state representatives, the verbiage you can use in your cut and paste into your email, or when you call them on the phone. It's all on the Building a Better Brooklyn Facebook page. So
I just linked it in the comments.
There we go.
Dude, you're awesome.
Look at me. I'm like Gen Z all over the place.
The other thing about the studio in my basement is not going anywhere, guys. I love to have you back on anytime. Love to have pretty much any small business owner on, and you know, just talk about it. That's the biggest thing, is just keep talking about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there's other regulations to other business owners that are weird, crazy, you know, and I'd love to get both sides of it, you know, try to play a little devil's advocate with, you know, Ben as a builder. I'm sure there's some building codes you think are crazy. And
That's
then,
like way higher than the town, though.
but then, then, you know, maybe we would have somebody here that would be able to speak on the other side of that and why that building code's there. I'd definitely love to have the Nemeths on here at some point, to tell their story. You know, that's what this is for, bringing community members together and hearing each other's story, giving people different perspectives. I know before I was a business owner, there was a lot you don't know about being a business owner. And it's kind of like a trial by fire. Is that,
Yeah.
is that the right saying? Yeah, it's so much different than just being an employee, and I don't want to take that away from anybody of being an employee of anything. That's definitely great, but when you become a small business owner, there's a lot of things you have to deal with as far as what you say is pretty much always public. You know, technically you have the right to refuse service, but there's so many other things that come in to play with that. And then, you know, if you're trying to, you know, do something to expand your thing, you're thinking outside the box. And,
Yep.
and you know, a lot of times you might come up with something that no one's ever done, at least in your area, and that can cause, and that could be a hit or miss. You know, and when it misses, man, it's tough, because bad news travels way faster than
Yeah.
and I just, my heart goes out to any struggling business owner, and you know, if I knew anything to help, reach out, and we'll do this, you know.
Hopefully next time we come on, we have some good news.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fingers crossed.
Yep. Look forward to that. It's a great place to end it. Thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks,
Happy to be here.
Awesome. Everybody else, stay safe, have fun.